Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wondered why certain things just feel so incredibly cute, and if that feeling has anything to do with your personality or how you see yourself? Well, today we're diving into a study about those kawaii feelings in Japan, and how they might be linked to something called communion, and our ideas about gender roles. It sounds a bit academic, but stick with me, because what they found is actually pretty cool and tells us something interesting about how we experience emotions and our place in the world. So, what exactly is kawaii? It is a Japanese word that means cute, lovely, or adorable. But it is more than just a word. It is a whole feeling, a positive response we get when we see certain things. Think of a fluffy kitten, a tiny baby, or even a cute animated character. Japanese culture in particular places a lot of importance on this feeling, often linking it to femininity and how people are expected to behave, especially young girls. This suggests that the idea of kawaii is deeply woven into social expectations from a very young age. Researchers have even noted that it is not just about what something looks like, but how we feel about it. They call these kawaii feelings, and they can be triggered by a whole range of things from real babies and animals to cartoon characters and everyday objects. And get this, studies suggest that women tend to experience these kawaii feelings more often and more intensely than men. This naturally makes us wonder why. To explore this, the researchers looked at two main ideas: communion and gender role attitudes. Communion, in simple terms, is all about connection with others. It's about being caring, cooperative, and intimate. Think of it as the we aspect of personality. The opposite of this in personality science is often called agency, which is more about independence, achievement, and self-assertion, the me aspect. Traditionally, communion has been linked with femininity and agency with masculinity. Now, the researchers hypothesized that because kawaii is often seen as feminine, people with more communion in their personality might experience more kawaii feelings. They also looked at gender role attitudes, which are basically our beliefs about how men and women should behave. Do we think they should have very different roles, or should they be more equal? They thought that people who believe in more equal gender roles, or egalitarian gender role attitudes, might be more open to experiencing and expressing kawaii feelings, regardless of whether they are male or female. Their present study focuses on Japanese young adults university students. To test their ideas, they surveyed 330 university students in Japan, and importantly, they asked about their feelings towards 4 different types of things that can be kawaii: infants, baby, animals, characters, and everyday objects. They also measured their levels of communion, agency, and their gender role attitudes. Let's quickly touch on how they did this. They used online questionnaires. For personality, they measured communion and agency, looking at both positive and negative aspects. For example, being very sensitive to others is positive communion, but being too sensitive to the point of constantly worrying about what others think could be seen as negative communion. For gender role attitudes, they use a scale that measured how egalitarian or traditional someone's views were on gender roles. And for kawaii feelings, they asked participants to rate how cute they would find each of the 4 target categories. Now, for the exciting part, what did they find? They used a statistical method called Mankava to analyze the data, which basically helps them see how multiple things are related at once. This is a big deal. It means that these 4 factors do have an impact on kawaii feelings. But here is where it gets nuanced. The impact wasn't the same for all types of kawaii targets. This means that the more someone scored on positive communion, that caring, connected personality trait, the stronger their kawaii feelings were towards babies and everyday objects. Scroll-negative communion showed significant effects on kawaii feeling toward infants and objects, says Scroll interestingly. Even negative communion, that excessive sensitivity, was also linked to stronger kawaii feelings towards infants and objects. It seems that a focus on others in various forms ties into feeling cuteness towards things that might need care or are part of our personal lives. Scroll gender role attitudes significantly predicted kawaii feeling toward characters. In very novel finding, unlike communion, which focused on infants and objects, gender role attitudes were specifically linked to feelings of cuteness towards characters. Scroll parameter estimates for significant effects in the multivariate analysis of covariance results for kawaii feelings. Scroll. Let's dig into that a bit more. The study found that more egalitarian gender role attitudes, meaning more belief in equality between genders, were associated with stronger kawaii feelings towards characters. This suggests that people who are less bound by traditional gender stereotypes, regardless of whether they are men or women, might be more likely to embrace and admit to feeling kawaii towards characters. a feeling often stereotypically associated with girls. This really challenges the idea that kawaii is only about femininity. The researchers suggest that with characters, it might not be about having a feminine personality, but about having more egalitarian gender role attitudes. This means that as long as someone is open to more equal gender roles, they might feel free to appreciate the cuteness of characters. Breaking free from traditional gender expectations. It is like saying, I don't care if this is seen as a girl thing, I genuinely find this character adorable. Scroll gender showed significant effects on kawaii feeling toward baby animals and objects, with women reporting higher kawaii feelings than men in both cases. Scroll while characters showed no gender difference, baby animals and objects did, women consistently reported stronger kawaii feelings towards both baby animals and objects compared to men. This aligns with some previous research suggesting that non-living things might show these gender differences in kawaii feelings. Scroller results suggest that communion as a stereotypical feminine trait is associated with kawaii feelings in a manner distinct from empathy and affiliation motives. Scroll researchers also noted that agency, the assertive, me aspect of personality, wasn't significantly linked to kawaii feelings. This supports the idea that the emotional expression of cuteness is more tied to our connections with others and our social views rather than our drive for individual achievement. This study has two limitations. Like all research, this study has some limitations. First, it relied on self-reported questionnaires. People might not always be completely honest, or they might report what they think is socially acceptable. For example, there can be a bias in how people respond to questions about gender roles. Second, this was a cross-sectional study, meaning they looked at a snapshot in time. This makes it hard to say for sure if one thing causes another. Does having egalitarian gender role attitudes cause you to feel more kawaii towards characters? Or do people who already feel that way about characters also tend to have more egalitarian attitudes? We can't say for sure from this study. Scroll is a future direction. Experiments could be conducted in which participants rate kawaii using visual stimuli. They suggest that future research could use actual images or videos to measure kawaii feelings and perhaps even look at behavioral responses instead of just self-reports. They also mentioned that while they focused on an everyday experience of kawaii through questionnaires, exploring what specific visuals trigger these feelings from a gendered perspective would be interesting. Scroll conclusion. What is the big takeaway from all of this? Kawaii feelings are more complex than we might think. They are not just tied to femininity, and their triggers depend on what we're looking at. Communion, that sense of connection to others, was linked to feeling cute towards things that are close to us, like babies and personal items. But for characters, it was our views on gender equality that seemed to matter more, and that applied to both men and women. These findings indicate that kawaii encompasses meanings beyond traditional femininity, and that gender role egalitarianism plays a distinctive role in enabling individuals, regardless of gender, to express feelings conventionally considered feminine. This research offers a cool way to think about how gender and emotions mix. It suggests that in modern Japan, and perhaps in many cultures, as we become more open to gender equality, we might also become more open to experiencing and expressing a wider range of emotions, even those that were once strictly confined by gender roles. It shows that embracing equality can actually free us up to appreciate things we might have otherwise dismissed. It is a fascinating look at how our social beliefs and our personalities shape something as seemingly simple as finding things cute. What do you think? Does this resonate with your own experiences of feeling kawaii? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into research and want more science explained simply, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to Rubin's Mind Lab, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the human mind. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.